22. In her room. John. Joseph had not returned from his date, and that was a relief. His text was the only thing I got when I arrived. Joseph. Where are you? You working? Me. Yeah. ... Thumbs up. Joseph. Make sure you check out the devices for any more activity and take the device that failed down so we can have the techs check them out. See if they can find something from its data. You get in there and see if you find anything while the place is empty. ... Me. Sure. ... Was he texting me from his date? Most likely the guy was a workaholic. I cleaned up and came down the stairs. Grabbing the keys off the counter, I programmed the watch just enough to absorb Claudia close, but not to have her inside my head. I might embarrass her with the thoughts that were now consuming my mind about her. I couldn't deny it. I thought a lot about her. I climbed into the Jag, accelerated, and sped out of the driveway. I got to Claudia's house within 15 minutes and parked on the opposite side of the street. The house looked peaceful and quiet. A little glow came from the window facing the street. Michael must be asleep, at least I hoped so. I sat in the car and texted her. Here. She drew away the curtain and her figure emerged through the window and waved. I jumped out of the car and walked across the street. You would think I was on assignment the way I moved up the lawn toward the tree next to her window. I sized it up as Claudia popped out her head. She moved a finger to her lip and I nodded. She directed me to the other side of the tree. I walked along to the left and then to the right. This was simple enough. The large and thick branch extended right up to her window. I leaped into the air and grabbed the branch from beneath. Claudia moved back as I pulled over the top of the branch and balanced toward her window. Then I lowered myself inside her bedroom. If I was determined enough to get to something, nothing was going to stop me. She was speechless as I faced her. She looked amazing. Her waist-long locks of hair cascaded over each side of her chest and down her back, thick and straight. Her dark brows raised slightly over bright brown eyes. The color was so bold and a rich chocolate that gave off a golden hue in the center. She had full rosy lips, and a perfect shade of pink covered her face as she caught me gazing over at her. A fitted flowery designer top and a black skirt dressed her slender form. She pulled at the sleeves of her blouse bashfully, gazing over at me, still blushing. How did you... That was amazing. I chuckled, still taken aback by the beauty before me. I couldn't look away. You said you were fast and strong. I guess I never thought much about it until you did that. I came closer. A warm glowing was surfacing from her again. A humming followed the circuit always when we came together. I'm always fast when I want to get to something or someone very important, I said, which sounded corny, but she made me say dumb, unpredictable things. I drew in and put my hand on her cheek. I guess it was a daring move. I knew that when she shyly moved over to the bed and dropped at the edge. I took a step, glancing over to the art table near the window, hoping to drown out the awkwardness of what I had just tried to do. She gazed at me, the same unsteadiness displayed on her expression. Our current of emotions racing through us both, making a swarm of butterflies dance madly inside my stomach. It was the same for her, but this wasn't how I usually felt. John Slater was never this, vulnerable. I noticed a few drawings upon the art table and moved to examine them. They looked new. She bashfully lowered her gaze, a little nervous. I couldn't deny I felt the same way myself when I was with her. Unable to focus, unable to speak, it seemed. The only thing that kept me tamed was the watch on my wrist. Without it, I might have been at her mercy or the misery of my own desires. She timidly gazed over at me as I picked up the drawings to examine them. I hoped that by now she trusted me. I had told her everything about myself. I had never revealed so much about myself to another. Dr. Nicholson would think that I was possessed. Joseph would say I was mad and looking for trouble. Maybe I was. Maybe I was more like Jack than I'd ever understood. I was curious with him on my mind once more. The last time I had seen Jack was back at the academy before my physical. Dr. Nicholson had confirmed he had sent him on a mission. I dared not ask Dr. Nicholson what had happened to him. Not that he would willingly offer such information. It wasn't my place to know. "These are new," I said, gazing over at her. She nodded as she observed me from the side of the bed. She tugged at me, then moved away, but her desires were clear. She was curious, timid, and her heart was rich with excitement. She was happy I was here. Her fear might have been that we might get caught. After what I had said to Michael, there was guilt that I had betrayed the man by coming here in the cloak of night to see Claudia without his knowledge. Was I a fiend? I couldn't help myself. I was weak when it came to her. I picked up one drawing at a time and studied each with great interest. "These are amazing just like the others," I said. Bashfully, she smiled, unable to take a compliment. She blushed. "So, whose class are you in? Miss Eager's class?" I glanced back at her. She shook her head, but offered no names. "Mr. Stewart?" I asked. Again, she shook her head. "The art club?" I came closer to the bed, and she shook her head no again. I smiled. "Claudia, these are incredible. I'm sure any of those teachers would be thrilled to have you in their class. Why aren't you in the art club?" She blinked over at me from the side of the bed. She didn't look sure herself. I had a feeling she had been asked that same question before, maybe even by Michael. I hoped I wasn't making her feel uncomfortable by bringing it up. "I'm not sure," she finally said. "Michael wants me to get involved, but I just don't see the point." I didn't want to put her on the spot by asking the questions that plagued my mind. I picked up another picture. It was one of Joseph. I was impressed by the detail. "You got him down," I said, lifting the drawing. She blushed, but didn't say anything. "I'm impressed." I gazed at her. The feeling I got from her was embarrassment. I put the drawing down, moving a few others around, and caught one in particular that was also new. I recognized the drawing right away. I picked it up. I felt her insecurities tug at me. She was curious as to what I was doing. "Is this who you saw in the desert?" I asked, lifting the drawing. Jack's face was well detailed, down to his clear blue eyes, his lips, and his defined jawline. She had every detail down, and I felt slightly jealous at the care she had taken to get the lines of every part of his face down on paper. She had a good eye. "Yes, he was digging in the desert." "Digging?" I asked. I folded the picture in my hand and dropped it into my side pocket when she wasn't looking. If anyone saw this drawing, especially Dr. Nicholson, he would curiously wonder why and how she had seen him. I couldn't very much tell him she had a vision, although I was curious myself as to how she had seen Jack's face. I put the other drawings down and came over to where she was sitting. We looked over at the few paintings displayed on the wall. Some I had already seen, others were fairly new. There was one of Michael, another of Mr. Vasquez, and Mr. Claypool. What was he digging for? "A box, I guess. He pulled out a metal box from the dirt, and when he opened it, there was a gun inside." I wrinkled my nose, thinking about her words. Sure sounded like Jack. Her drawing, no doubt, revealed it was no one but him. What was he doing appearing in her dreams, her visions? I was far more jealous of that fact than worried about what else it could mean. Did he say anything? Do anything? She gazed over at me curiously. She wanted to know why I was so interested in knowing. He asked who I was. I was amazed when she said that. He had made contact with her. And I had thought it was just a vision. "Wait, he talked to you?" I uttered curiously over at her. She nodded, puzzled. "He was surprised to see me there. We were in the middle of nowhere, but I recall a town in the background." "A town?" I said. She nodded. "What kind of town?" "I'm not sure. It looked old-fashioned, like an old Mexican town. It felt someplace south." Felt? I didn't like that. The idea that she felt anything from him made me feel uneasy. He wasn't even here and he was making moves on my girl. That was just like him. "Do you know why you had a vision of him?" She gazed curiously at me. "No, why? Is it important? Who is he?" She had sensed enough to know it wasn't just curiosity, and my expressions hadn't helped either to conceal what was bothering me. "Do you know him? Is he real?" she asked. "Yes, he's real," I finally answered. "He's one of my best friends. I haven't seen him in a long while. I rose and paced before her. She looked surprised. He couldn't be reaching out to her. He didn't even know her. It was strange how that very idea delighted me, that he had no clue of her existence until now. Was that a confirmation of jealousy? And why am I having visions of him? I don't know, I answered. It could mean anything. Is he like you? She finally asked, a question I had wondered about myself. Could that be the reason for his connection to her? It still didn't make sense why he would connect to her now. It took a moment before I answered her. He moves like me. He's fast and strong, just like me. Dr. Nicholson said we both had the same anomaly. We were one of a kind, but that still doesn't explain why you saw him. I turned my face away, pained with the idea that we might have the same connections to her, and I didn't like it. She reached to touch my chin. An electrifying vibe raced up the side of my face. I spun my head to look over at her almost immediately. Does it bother you that I had a vision of him? I swallowed hard. I was a mess suddenly staring into her eyes. She knew me. I couldn't answer, but I didn't have to. It was in my eyes. It shouldn't, she simply said. I blinked up. You've grown on me, John Slater. Her glow filled me as her hand stroked my cheek before cupping it. If she only knew what that did to me. What her touch did to me each time. It wasn't just the mere touch, but the current that raced throughout my body, sending warm sensations. I feel so lucky, I whispered. The watch started to bleep. I moved my hand over to the wrist and turned it slightly, switching the sound off. Our connection was faint, but there nevertheless, and I was absorbing the richness of it. Afraid of me? She teased. I wrinkled my lip. Afraid? No. To lose control, Miss Bell, perhaps. Her reaction expressed curiosity. She didn't understand what I meant when I said lose control. I'll be like the person who came at you in the hallway. Something inside me will lose control. All I wanted was you. I had to have you. You're so rich, Miss Bell. Your energy gives me strength and draws me to you, but that's not all. That's only part of it. It's like we're cut from the same piece of wool. I can't explain it, I laughed. I know it sounds ridiculous and makes no sense. It's not, she was quick to say. I feel the same. Relieved, I grinned. I was going mad. Joseph would have agreed that I needed a CAT scan. He would have ordered me one immediately. I neared, taking hold of her face in my hands. I kissed her passionately. A release of longing escaped me as I smothered my face on the side of her neck to ease my desires. She didn't resist me. She welcomed my caresses. Caught in the moment, my hands raced the side of her body, laying upon her breast, and almost immediately, I pushed hard upon her. I was losing control. I recoiled and pushed away, pulling back my touch. I'm sorry. Overwhelmed with desire, I must have looked mad, spellbound by her glow. My eyes were doing their little dance again, bouncing from within my sockets like mad firecrackers ready to go off. I'm sorry, I lost control. Like I said, you do something to me, Miss Bell. I can't explain it. I was out of breath, and I could see she could tell I wasn't myself when I was lost in the magic of her power. I stepped back. I can't explain. I guess it doesn't make any sense, I tried to say. It's okay, she whispered and took my hand, pulling me to her. My eyes began to dance, even with the control of the watch. I was drawn in, my heart racing. I took a breath to control the current between us and cupped her cheek. She stopped. I was frightened I had done something once more to receive resistance from her, but then I heard it as well. There was movement outside in the hall. Michael, she whispered. Claudia spun her head back to me. The light outside came on. When she looked back, I was perched on the ledge of the window, gazing back at her. She rose and came to me. I grabbed her close and kissed her quickly as there came a knocking. The doorknob slowly turned. Before the door opened, I leapt down and was at the side of my car door. I could see the light in Claudia's room. She was standing by the open window looking back into her room. I got into my car and waited, watching as she disappeared into the room, and after a few seconds she returned to the window and looked out and waved. A text from her phone came. Claudia. That was close, surprised face. Wow, you moved so quickly. I've never seen anyone move that quickly before, surprised face. Me. I'm a hunter, Miss Bell. That's one of my skills. Wink. Claudia. It was nice spending time with you, John. Smile. Me. We still have tomorrow night, Miss Bell. I'll see you then. Wink. Kiss emoji. I was already missing her. I didn't want to wait. I turned on the car, looking at the screen of my phone. I could see a faint light coming from her bedroom as she read my text back in the dark of her bedroom. Me. I meant what I said, ... Claudia. About what? Me. About how you make me feel. I need you, ... I'm falling hard, Miss Bell, ... Kiss. Claudia. Heart. Smile. Me. I want to ask you something, ... Claudia. What is it, John? Me. Not over text, baby. ... Me. You're glowing, Miss Bell, ... Kiss. Claudia. So are you, Mr. Slater, ... I laughed. Me. Good night, Miss Bell, ... See you tomorrow night, heart. Claudia. Good night, heart. As I drove away, I was planning my next move ahead. I would ask Claudia to be my girlfriend. Then what? Joseph's voice echoed the same feelings as before. What then when you must leave her? The same words Dr. Nicholson would say. The same words I would voice in response. I wasn't planning on leaving. I couldn't leave her now knowing what I knew. Knowing that I was in love with her. She was my other half. She needed me just as I needed her.